Hello, everyone. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Uptick's first Lunch and Learn. I'm Sean. I'm pretty sure most of you have met me. For those who haven't, welcome and nice to meet you. I'm really hoping that everyone can hear me right now. Waiting for a little bit of feedback.
It's slightly delayed, but you're good.
Okay, so that is great. Okay, so what we're doing here today is our first Lunch and Learn session. The idea of these sessions are to go through the latest updates in the product, make sure that everyone is familiar with all the changes as we make them, and also we're going to have a topic of the month. Today's topic is going to be completing daily swims and on-site inductions via the iPad whilst in the field. Whilst I'm talking, you can comment via the section on the right, and as you ask questions, I'll save them up and I'll try and answer them as they're applicable. Okay, so getting started. The topics today will be the web release, the field release, which is a big one this month, today's feature of the month, which is what we discussed is swims on the iPad, and then we'll have a Q&A. The web release. Okay, so this month's release is called Optimal. This month has been very much just a consolidation of issues and making sure the product is a little bit smoother. There's been no major features added, really. So what we've got is we have the defect quotes. You now have the ability to bulk action them. So what that means is from the defect quote screen, we see our list, which everyone is familiar with, and we've got a bulk action on the left here. So I can select some or all of them and edit. And in doing so, now I have this transition such that I can finalize and submit. So probably the most useful one of this will be to send a reminder. Okay. And you can set reminder emails, a specific reminder email, and we'll be able to use this to send a reminder. Okay. So the next thing is the timesheet view. So some of you may actually not even be familiar with the timesheet, so I might take an opportunity just to quickly take you through the timesheeting module. To get there, we go via Tools and Timesheet Review. So this is the Manager view. So this is the view that you will all be using to manage your staff and keep an eye to keep track of the timesheets that they enter and approve them, and then you can go on and process them for payment. This is what it looks like when you see a timesheet. This is a fairly boring one. We can't see a whole lot in here at the moment, but I can go and add one. So what we can see here is this particular Gerard technician, whoever this guy is, he seems like he's working pretty hard. He's got 6 uncommitted sessions, and I can see that there's a little arrow in the bottom right hand corner that tells me that there are time sessions on there. It's gray, which says that there's nothing there. So I can click this. What it's going to do is it's going to create a timesheet with all of these sessions in there. So this is Jared's first timesheet. This is what a timesheet looks like. It's just a bunch of task sessions that have been presented on a single day. So all this does is build on the existing start-stop timer that all of your technicians should be using. So it shouldn't be any additional work for your technicians. From the beginning, they can just start-stop, and then they will, it'll appear on here, and you can approve them as necessary. Okay, so yeah, so from this, we will actually be doing this via the iPad, and I'll do a quick overview of this when we get to the field update section. But you can see that they've now got this timesheet, and I can update the timesheet 9 and submit it. Going back to the timesheet review. Now I've got this lovely purple box here. So reading that is telling me it's pending review. So if I add another one here for Jared Technician, that hardworking guy, we'll submit this one, but this time we're going to market as approved. So he is ready to get paid for that day. And looking at our list, you can see that we got one purple, one green, and he's got another one back here, which is needs to still have that time added. So this is the changes. Beforehand, there was a lot of confusion around what all these different boxes meant. Now we've really simplified it, and it's around, are there sessions on this particular day? Do they need to be created into a timesheet? And then what's the state of the timesheet? Okay, one thing to keep notice, and I've had some support questions around this, is this particular demo organization that we're working with has a fair few technicians. So when it comes to the end of the month, when you've had potentially, I don't know, all 25 of these technicians enter 8 sessions a day for 20 days, you're going to get quite a lot of sessions in there. And as a result, you will, it takes a while to load. So with this, unfortunately, it's just a matter of that. The way to get around that is to use this filter at the top, which is filter by technician or branch. So if you have queries, you can direct them to our support team. But that is something that we recognize, but it's not something we can fix at this stage, unfortunately. So next up, we have the parent task. So this is fairly simple. Tasks now have the ability to have parent and children. This is the beginning of our projects module, where we will be building on this over the next 6 months. So that what a parent task looks like is if we click into a task here, you have this related section. And in here, you can see children tasks, and we can create one. And this is saying that this task is related to that parent task. So the parent one might be the project that we do all of the costing, all of the billing from. But the child task might be each of the specific components of that project. And then as we create that, they will be always related through and tied into the costing. So you can see this particular task I've created has a parent task. You can only have one parent in this sense, but you can have multiple children. Okay, and looking in here, it tells me that we have one task. So as I said, these are quite small changes. I'm only going to touch on this. So billing with routines. This has probably been the biggest feature this month. And I could do a whole one of these sessions on billing with routines. So what I will do is maybe we will chalk that up and do it when we're transitioning everyone across to billing routines, which is something else I've been asked to talk about, is the transition to routines. This is routine tasks, for those who don't know, is our replacement or improvement to the service quoting module. The idea of this is it more strictly ties in with the Australian standards, and as a result is more flexible. We will be sending out some of you know this, we'll be sending out account managers over the next 6 months to discuss transitioning you across. There is a lot of improvements around this module, billing being one of them. So I'll probably save that topic for another one of these sessions. Okay, and then the last one in Optimal release is the dispatch screen. Now displays the total uninvoiced amount for that task. So if we look at our dispatch to client, we can see task uninvoiced amount. So the idea of this is that you don't leave money on the table, because nobody wants to do that. So we can track this here, and if you have done work but it hasn't been invoiced, it will do it there in the process of adding an invoice to the dispatch, and you can just track that and make sure that that money has been allocated and sent off to your customers. So as I said, quite a quiet month on the web release front, not so on the field app. So what I would like to do though is quickly touch on 2 quite rather large features that we implemented last month. As this is our first Lunch and Learn, we didn't have the opportunity to go through these. The first one being the new defect quote builder. So we just jumped to our defect quoting section. And what we'll do is we'll just grab any draft defect quote. Doesn't have to be a draft one, it can be as you're creating it, but I've just for the sake of this exercise, grabbing one that already exists. And we have this quote builder section. So looking at this quote, I can already see that the fire door 02, the closer needs to be repaired, and we can see that, and there's some labor attached to it. But what we can do is also go quote builder. And what this does is it brings through a list of all of the remarks that have been associated with this task. You can also change it over from task to property. So this can go quite crazy at times because it brings through every issue that exists on this property. So it's kind of almost building up a system repair report for you internally to try and build quotes off. But jumping back to the task, this is now just remarks that were added via this task, this particular time that someone was on site. On the left, we can see all of the different assets, keeping in mind that the first two are actually the same asset. So we have two different remarks associated with it. So fire door 1, which is our first asset, has a remark which is the closer is not working. And it has a whole bunch of products associated with that. So we might go, cool, I'm going to add, tick this fire door closer. This is where it gets a little bit confusing because this fire door has existed in the second section for the other remarks. These have automatically been ticked there. So I'm glad that this is actually here so that I can give you a demo of it. And then we can go through here, fire door 6, we've got a photo of it, which is great. The door, it was missing. So we might add a door, and then that's it. And then all you have to do is go create line items from products. And what this has done is it's gone and quickly created a quote from this, which we can send out to the customer. So there is one bit of work that you need to do to make this work in setup. What you have to do is these products need to be associated with remarks. So I won't touch on that today, but there is a help article in our support documentation which explains attaching products to remarks. This functionality also translates through to the iPad. If the technicians are there, they will be given these opportunities to directly add the products associated with the remarks. So it works on both sides. That functionality has been around in the iPad for a little while. The other thing that was released in the NICA release last month is the new data importer. So to get there, we go Tools and we go Importer. And we can see this new importer, which looks a lot more up to date and a lot more modern. Works in a similar way. You can see the options of what we have here. On the right-hand side, you can download the different import templates. These are the templates that you need to follow strictly. And as a result, you upload the file and select it, and we can start the import. This particular importer will give you a lot more information when trying to debug any issues, because we're very strict in the database, you need to be careful with what data you put in. And as a result, you have to be very strict, and these errors are to save the integrity of your database. So that is it for the web release. I might jump over to my question team and see if I've had any questions about the web release whilst I've been doing this.
We actually haven't had any questions on the video.
Apparently I haven't enabled questions, which sounds like a good thing. Just getting some help assistance to do this now. So just bear with me, everybody.
So if we go over here and go to settings, broadcasting, so I guess join. Check out. We'll work on questions next time, sorry.
Okay, looks like there's going to be no question and answer section today. I apologize, but we will make sure that we work it out. If you do have any significant questions, you can send them through to our support email address, and we will monitor that, and we'll try and get them brought back across to me. Okay. So jumping back to my screen, I'm just waiting for the okay from my support team. Is my screen showing everything all right?
Yep.
Great. Okay, so next thing we have is the field release. So this is my baby. I've been very busy working on this for the last few months, and I apologize for the delays that we've had with this particular release. The reason being is also in this last period of time, we've had a name change to Uptick. So we've decided to hold off on this release to make sure that all of the, everything is like perfect, as in the new branding, new name, new appearance. So the first thing you'll notice is on the left of my screen, we have a new app, a new name and a new icon, which is our tri-pronged Uptick with the Uptick icon. Okay, so clicking into this, we now have our new color scheme. All functions the exact same at this stage, but it's going to be quite a bit of a shock just visually from this sense. So logging in. We can see once again, we can see it's quite similar at this point, just with this new color scheme. One thing to note, we have moved on this screen, is we now no longer have a changes button on the bottom. This particular release has been very centered around trying to make the app work better on the iPhone as well as the iPad. It's always been very specifically targeted at the iPad, because as we're, but as Apple have been bringing out new devices, the iPhone 7 Plus in particular is a very powerful device. So we're trying to target that as well. We're not forgetting about the iPad users because, to be honest, we know that's most of you out there, but we're just trying to focus on the iPhone as well. So to do that, we wanted to get rid of the More tab. The More tab was a little bit annoying. There was always stuff hidden at the bottom here, and it just wasn't accessible. So the big one that we've actually exposed here is up in the top left corner is our changes button. So that used to be down the bottom there. It will tell you as changes go through. So all you're really looking there for is the red icon to say if there was a change or if not. If you do need to view them, you can just tap that button to make them appear. Otherwise, you just leave it as is. We do, on this screen, we've got this little green filter, which tells you that accesses the filters here. And the little badge of 12 means we have 12 active filters on. And the last thing is our status bar. So a lot of you who are joining me here today are actually web users. So you'll be familiar with these progress bars from all over the site. So this is actually telling me what the progress of all of my tasks are at. I can see I have one task visible on the screen, which is ready, and it shows by being gray. The colors represent the same as that. So if I go and clear my filters and go back, we can now get a better progress here. Got a big chunk of them in gray, in ready, and we've got some that are scheduled, in progress, inspected, and the rest of them. I'm going to jump back to my tasks though, because I'm going to be using this one for the demo today. Just to continue through, this is our new task screen. So this is probably the screen that has had, one of the two screens that's had the biggest overhaul. This one here, it has replaced the property screen. So the idea is that it contains all of the information, and a lot of you have been working with the demo app, that contains all of the information that was available on the task and the property screen together, because we found that it was a lot of jumping back and forth just to see what am I here to do. So we now have 5 at the bottom, which is our sort of new mandate, removing the More button. So on this screen here is our task screen, but it brings through all of the important property information. So I can see the client, the property client details are here. So this particular client is for Uptick and I'm the client. We can see the access details here, scrolling down contacts, authorization note and authorization limit. So the next tab that we have, one thing I will touch on is the property. You can access it via view property. So if you're wanting to see property documents or appointments, they're just one click away going via this tab here. We have now renamed the servicing tab to work. This is where all of your routine work will appear. So we can see that we're actually here to do a portable service, and this is everything in here. Coming down, products is the same. This is where you would do all of your repair work or add any of the products. So this screen is probably the most similar still. Purchase orders is a new module entirely, which you can see on the right. It's my last thing to touch on, and I'll do that. And then the next one I wanted to touch on is finalization. So the idea of finalization is this is the last screen you go to before dispatching a task. This is anything that you might want to do after your work. So we start on task, we do our work here, we do products, add a purchase order if necessary, and then we jump to finalization. From this screen, we have three main options at the top: fill out logbooks, create any quotes, or update timesheets. We can also in here edit the technician note. So this is just some note that can go on the report. And we can save that. That'll go on the report. Likewise, the invoice note. Go there as well. We can collect signatures the exact same way, but it's all on this screen, just keeping it really succinct. The idea here is everything is around workflow, and I'm going to add Sean. And then we can prepare the dispatch, which comes up, and this just works the exact same way as we did our dispatch before. We can see that it has an invoice associated. I might want to deselect that and go and actually add the service report instead. And I'm going to dispatch and mark as complete. So this here is our new sort of workflow around the finalization. So that one, a lot of you have seen and already spoken to me about that. For those of you who have had the app, hopefully it won't be too much of a shock to the system. The idea is just to try and simplify all these processes. And with there being originally 8 different screens, 8 or 10 different screens, it was a bit crazy. One thing that's important to note is that we now have this blue button on here, which allows you to directly bring up the barcode scanner, which won't work because I'm on my computer, but that is here in replacement of the actual, of the barcode tab that we once had. And then if you want to view all the assets, you just scroll to the bottom, or we can jump to that section, all assets, and then we can view that here, which is great. And that's just shown us all the assets that are on this site. Okay, so timesheets. So as I was saying, timesheets tie into the start-stop functionality of the app that you're already well familiar with. So I might jump back and just grab some random tasks. I'm going to clear my filter and we'll grab this task here. I'm going to mark it as in progress, start the timer. So with timesheets, the first thing you can do is you can set different task session options, be it performing task or transiting to task. You can even go further and add in company-specific things, such as lunch. You may ask your technicians to track when they take lunch. You can add in there additionally things like a toolbox meeting, if you have on like induction meetings, training, all sorts of things like that. These are different options. From a task though, at the moment, the default setting is to have performing task or transit task. If you don't see these options here and you want them, contact support or sales and we will enable the timesheeting module for you. So we're going to say we're actually transiting to this task. You might have noticed up there that our little red badge came up to say that we had one change and it went away. So this is where the changes lives on the new task screen. So I've done that and I've stopped my session. So by stopping it, I can now go into my finalization screen and go update timesheets. And I can see that I have this one task that I was on and transiting. Then what I might do is I might start and the next one is going to be my transit task time. Going to wait, and so now I'm actually starting the task. My apologies there. So I'm doing my work, filling everything out, ticking off the things that need to be done, performed. You're all well versed with this, and then we're going to stop the timer at the end. But what we now have is we have these 2 sessions that we can see, and they've also overlapped. So sometimes you make mistakes with the timer. It happens, we understand this. So what you can do from this timing session is we can click edit and we can change the time. So I can just go, I'm going to take that back to 12 o'clock and I'm going to move that up to 1 o'clock. So it spent me an hour to drive here. Then this next session we can say, well, this was I'm going to change it to performing task because I made a mistake when I was clicking that, which is a good start. Now I'm going to roll this over to be 3 hours. And some of you will be, it's very important that your technicians have a full day worth of tracked time, and this is how they can do it. They can make sure that it is accurate. We do keep logs of what it was changed from, so we can see what the timer was actually did and then how it was reflected and updated via the iPad. So we've now got this, and I can go through. I'm going to jump out and I can grab another task. Grab this task, start the timer. It was actually next door, so there was no transit time. Now I'm going to start it, stop it, go to my finalization to update my timesheet again. We can see this is where it is. These ones are grayed out a little bit, whilst it's hard to see, and that is to say that they were another task. You can see that they're related to the other task here, but now I can grab this task. I believe it was starting at 3 o'clock. 3 till 4 we can do this. So there we go. We're starting to build up a lovely day of full time. At the end of the day, you can go back to your timesheet overview, which brings through all of the timesheets, and it shows back the last 2 weeks of timesheets. We are in the process of also adding in the functionality so that you can specify what your business week is, and then that's what it will display. And we can further add allowances. So I might want to add a meal allowance of $20 and save that. And now we have allowances. I can add separate timesheets here. So this entries, this is where I can go, I'm going to actually take sick annual leave and put it in the system and save. So that is a really quick overview of the timesheeting module in the new app. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on with this field release is purchase orders. So you probably saw it on the new task screen. It is a module that needs to be enabled. So if you don't see it on your screen, once again, just speak to support or sales team. And it takes pride of place just before finalization. So the idea of purchase orders are, these are when one of your technicians needs some sort of part from an approved supplier, and they just need to get it on the spot to complete a job. So firstly, they can up the top here, view any open purchase orders that might exist. They can then select who it's for. I can grab a sundry supplier, add a description of what it is. So they might be for 8 widgets. They're always running out of widgets. They can then go and add parts. So this is just adding any part from your product list, or this might be if this particular task has already been quoted for. These are the products that on the left here that we know we needed. You can add it directly from there, but we can just add maybe a sundry part. I'm going to add an other part. And the idea is you just submit the purchase order and it gives me a purchase order number, which pops up on the screen. So I've got PO0013 and I just present that to the person at the counter and they will give me my 8 widgets. They will then finalize an invoice, send it back to the office, who can then follow the process, which is to go through. They can then see the purchase order here, which is all of the details. You can see it's been submitted, and they will edit the invoice details as to reflect exactly what the invoice number was. They might take a photo, etc. And this will then get associated with the job costing of this. Okay, so that is the field release. Here are some screenshots, and I might try and ask someone in my support team to associate these notes with the video or distribute them somehow via our support channel, just showing. So this is the new appearance of it. We can see these are the big screens that have had the update, the task one being the most significant. The work is a bit, and then finalization. And here we have our new app. These are sort of a simple walkthrough of the timesheets and purchase orders. So now to our specific topic for today. So this is a problem that a lot of you have spoken to us about, and it is how do we integrate our existing SWIMS or on-site induction OH&S processes with Uptick. Most of your existing processes are all paper-based. It's someone goes out with a hard copy piece of paper. They're out there, they fill out their either daily swims or an on-site swims. And as I'm seeing this, I apologize for my iron swims. And they then bring it back to the office, which gets logged away, which is just a great big problem, and just part of the reason why you moved with Uptick was to reduce paperwork and not have this here anymore. Some of you have taken a step further and tied into Google Sheets at least, and you can have forms created in there and that gets filed away automatically, but it still doesn't integrate very nicely. They've got to keep either a Google app on there, a whole separate login. It's a different experience, and it doesn't give any sort of link back to the app. And the biggest one is it doesn't encourage them or force them to have to do this work, because they can just go through and tick everything and just start their work regardless of they've done the swims. So the problem we're trying to solve is how to integrate the completion of paper-based swims and risk assessments into our paperless system. So the answer to that is through the use of our dynamic forms module and our actions modules. So now I'm going to jump back to the task I had earlier, which is assigned to me. So this one has been set up. This is a portable 6-monthly service. So clicking this, I can see on my task that, yeah, it's portable 6-monthly. It's been assigned to me. That's what that says there. And in here, I go to my work section. So typically your user would just be like, cool, I'm going to get started. Tick, tick, and update the assets. But now you'll actually notice that they can't. This has been grayed out. These functions aren't actually available for them. And that is because there is a pre-start checklist item. So this is an action. This gets set up on the web backend, and I will touch on how we do that in a second. But the idea is you can set up these actions by marking it as required, which is one of the options. It says that the technician has to finish this and tick that off before they can do anything. It's not accessible otherwise. So that's the first step. This is really starting to integrate your custom processes into Uptick. So for example, you might actually just have an action which is required to start the timer. You could say, start the timer, mark it as inspected. And these are my company policies. Most of you will be encouraged to do that anyway, but we're going to say, you have to do these, and I'm going to lock you out until you've done it. So this particular thing in here, to do it, you can see there's a little gray disclosure button, which says we can click into this to see the swims. So this swims here is actually a dynamic form. So we can go through, you can see the job reference. We can click through, let's say it was 1, 2, 3, PPE that needs to be completed. I need high vis, and hearing protection is very loud in here. The hazards, we're going to be working at heights and confined spaces, keeping going through all of this. And these forms are however you want to customize them. These are completely, as we said, dynamic. So you set them up however you want to do, and they sit outside of your normal asset management, but they just allow you to do these forms, keep them going all the way down, and we can save them. So you may or may not have a form that is as comprehensive as this one. This is just our demo one that we can actually distribute to you if you want and have set up on your server. Once again, I'm keeping the sales and support team very busy, so contact them if you want any of this. On here, you can see there is a send to client button and a view PDF. So you might actually want to prove to your clients that you have updated and done this on-site induction, and this is the way that you can do it via the send to client. And that's just a process part here. Otherwise, it gets logged away and tracked against this task. So I click back. Now I have completed this, and I will tick off that I've done it, and we have all of our work ready to go. So that is how you can do a swims. And now we're ready to go here. Okay, so I've just been told that the comments are indeed working. Very positive there. So feel free to start commenting if you do have any questions, and we will bring back in our question and answer section. So From here though, what I'll do is show you how the back end is going to work. So to set up this, I'm going to jump back to my, jump back to my demo server here. And we will, so the dynamic forms, we probably would need to do a whole nother section on them. So we might leave that to another lunch and learn. But what I will do is show you how you can do the actions, because the actions are pretty straightforward and they can be done very easily once they are enabled. So this particular task is task 1198. So I'm just going to navigate to that task. Opening up this task. And now you can already see, you've already probably noticed that it's been retitled actions. This used to be called service tasks. And now these are all deemed our actions. So we've completed 2 of the 4. One of them being my perform on-site swims, and the other one being my fire extinguisher. The first one needed to be serviced. This is another screen that got a rejuvenation last month, and we can see that we've now got these 6 different icons down the bottom here. So the scheduled, instead of having the different badges at the front, we can see scheduled was highlighted, so that was a pre-planned routine maintenance task, and that it's been performed. You can see whether or not it was supposed to be quoted or is quoted. If you use the barcode scanner to access this, as some of you will do, if it's billable and if it hasn't been invoiced. So we've got all these things here. So if we want to add actions, so as I was discussing, we can put in an action to mark task as inspected. And I can mark that as required, and I'm going to add that here. Okay, and then I'm going to go start timer, and marking as required. So these ones here are just basic, sorry, they are just checkbox ones. So there's no forms associated with that. These are just things that we're prompting our technicians to do before they get there. So you can see they're already up on my screen, and tick that off and tick that off, and now we're good to go. So that is a pre-start checklist. What if we want to tell them to do things before they finish off? Our finalization process has been set up to really try and capture this workflow here, which is the complete logbooks, create quotes, update timesheets, but they might not always do that unless they're told they have to, excuse me. So all we can do this is we add another action group. So I'm going to go post service actions. I'm going to give it an order of 1, which puts it at the bottom. So this one is 0, it says at the top, and now 1 sits at the bottom here. So we're going to go stop the timer, the checklist, and we will go in here, mark task as complete. Okay, so scrolling all the way to the bottom, I can see I've got these, which we can add on our list, just really allowing you to customize your process completely as to how you want it to work with all of this. So I think that covers as much as I can tell you without just go through online here. I'm going to see whether or not we've got questions.
Yep, Mark Heppel, he asked, what is the cost to add the swims module?
The cost to add the swims module, unfortunately, I don't deal with that side of the business. I will have to direct that to our sales team, and I will get someone to get back in contact with you, Mark, about adding the swims module.
And Amalia has asked whether we'll be able to view this video later on, and the answer is yes, it'll be accessible via our YouTube page.
Okay, so for those of you who didn't quite hear Luke, Amalia asked if this video will be accessible later, and yes, it will be via our YouTube page. So this has been saved and will be stored against our YouTube page. Do we have any other questions? Okay, well, if there are no other questions, I'd like to, I'm going to wrap this up. So thank you all for attending our first Lunch and Learn. It's pretty exciting. I think that this is really going to allow you, everyone to, well, one, keep up to date with the product, and two, really try and get a grasp and learn new features that you might not normally have time to learn because you're just very busy with everything else. So we'll try and take the time to predict. If you have any recommendations of things that you would like to learn, please send an email in and we will try and schedule them in. If you have, we've sent a feedback form, so it should be in your inbox now. If you can provide us any further feedback about this session or how we could potentially improve it, that'd be great. Today's session was very high level. If you need one-on-one training about any of these things, contact support or sales. They're not getting out of this one, and they will be able to provide you with a quote as to what it would look like to get one-on-one training. Otherwise, thank you very much and have a great day. See you later.